Elohim, little g, gods and dragons, part 2. So as I ended part 1, I said I'm going to go back to Deuteronomy 32. So here we can see is a snapshot of the people of Jehovah, aka Yahweh. Same guy about their trials in the desert, of which they will have a really hard time. It's just of many stories of the division of the people into colonizing them in different areas throughout all of the land. It's all about colonizing, controlling with fear, with famine, with snakes, and with lions, as well as fire, coming down to impregnate barren women or virgins. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe Jesus is not born of a virgin. It doesn't matter to me. That doesn't have any, it does not help or undo my faith whatsoever. I don't need him to be born of a virgin or not be born of a virgin. It doesn't matter. The point I'm making here is the impregnation of women, because there are many girls and young women today that are getting this ongoing impregnation, and the baby, the fetus, being taken out of them at 3 or 4 months. That's what happened to me. All right, they are constantly mingling their seed, Daniel 2:43. They take the babies out, and in my outcome, with however they did it with their old school methods, they left me with a 30-pound tumor that had to be removed a few years ago. I had a complete hysterectomy because of a 30-pound tumor that nearly killed me. And what did that leave me with? A 13-inch scar with a massive amount of scar tissue that is built up to this day. You can't get rid of that stuff. The devastation that they will do to your body, what they did to my leg, I've already said that in other videos. The tumor on my leg was, it terrorized me for literally decades, literally. These dragons, Jehovah, Yahweh of the Old Testament, it's an evil, sadistic, not human gods. They are gods. They are fallen gods. All right. They left with Satan, came down to Project Earth and whatever other planets and star systems they travel through. All right. They are supernatural. They can defy the laws of physics. They have always controlled this planet and the humans on it. They always return to their project, planet Earth, to reset and begin again. And that time is now. It will begin, Pluto, in a few weeks. Pluto's already in Aquarius. They understand better than we do about our cosmic heavenly body's influence. And they will need to control the people who will rise against the Goliath again. So, again, the influence and the energy on the collective psyche and emotions of the people when Pluto takes a 20-year rest in Aquarius. So, this is worth repeating. I think I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. Jesus knew his audience. He knew who he was talking to, the culture, the mindset, and the indoctrination. Keep that in mind, the word indoctrination. I'm going to say it 1,000 times. He understood that the people he was talking to had no idea who the actual Father of heaven, the creator of the cosmos, they had no idea who the Father was. In the Jewish nation, right, the Jewish people, they only knew this character called Jehovah Yahweh. They didn't understand that he was a fallen Elohim. They knew he was a sky god. They knew he had a sky army. They understood the constant invasions in which their God says so many times in so many ways, right? Which is why Jesus has to reverse their thinking. Jesus is trying to take off some layers of indoctrination. Jesus is trying to say, I know all of your ways. I know your mindset. I know your culture. I know your history. I know your story. That's not the Creator. That's not my Father in heaven. He was reversing this entire indoctrination. All right, let's remember. Okay. As an example, there's many examples, but I can only pull from one or two. Let's go to John 14:7. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also. And from henceforth ye know him and have seen him. What is he saying? Again, the Father of heaven, our Creator, is within us humans. He's not outside of us. His kingdom is within the followers that Jesus is talking to. Now, Jesus knows they had no concept of a loving Father. That's not their experience. They have no understanding, no ideology, no acceptance of a loving Father in heaven. They only know of the hate, the fear-based, bloody, drinking, fat-burning baby, going through the fire, eating the baby, that God that they called Jehovah, Yahweh. That God, their God, is an evil dark lord that will return. And most will, as Jesus' audience, did in their day, most people today will worship the sky armies. Look up host of heaven. It's not holy angels. Read it through the concordance. All right. But now that you understand, now that you have that lens, if you accept that lens, you don't have to accept it. That's a choice. But if you're going to go with, letting go of indoctrination, it's like, well, what does it really say? When you don't have an agenda, when it's okay for truth to be told. Now, most people, that's not okay. We're not indoctrinated. We're not programmed for that to be okay. Right? Truth is not okay. Truth is not safe. The programming and the indoctrination is what keeps you safe. And that's okay too. This isn't for everyone. This is for a few souls that's going to get off the karmic cycle. But it helps us to better understand the mystery that has always been John 8:4:4. Right? To me, I could never get past John 8:4:4. It wasn't until today that I had a more complete, thorough, unindoctrinated understanding of what in the world Jesus was saying in John 8:4:4. I've read it, I am not kidding you, 100 times. It's been in 100 videos. I've used this quote without a thorough, what was really going on here? Now, I had a hybrid understanding, but it still wasn't making enough sense to me. Let's read it. John 8:4:4, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speak a lie, he speak of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. So now this is crystal clear. For me, it's crystal clear. Jesus' followers, Jesus' audience, they only know the God of Moses, Jehovah. But Jesus is the God before Abraham, before the serial killing begins. You go back and read it. Read the history. Before the serial killers, known as God in the Old Testament, Jesus tells us, right, still here in John 8, now skip down to verse 58. It says, Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. This is our Father in heaven, none of which can be found in the Old Testament. So how can, if you're looking at it with logic, how does this go unchecked for over 5,000 years. How does this go unchecked? I went and read the history before Abraham. What were the people like and the cultures like? Before the indoctrination of Jehovah. You can read that. That's available if you're curious enough. Most are not. That's okay. All right, so this the control of this Jehovah guy is unbelievable. Over 5,000 years. It makes no sense until you're simply unindoctrinated. Once you refuse to simply read what is written without a need for worship, when you read it with from that divine spark within yourself, when you read it with Holy Spirit discernment, Jesus never used the word Jehovah or Yahweh. He only used, of which his audience are calling the Father. They're calling him Jehovah and Yahweh. That's why Jesus had to use the words on this God that they're talking about: murderer, liar, father of lies, and the devil. Right? Yet when he speaks of our real Father, let's read Matthew 7:11. If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Now, really read all of Matthew 7 because there's some good stuff there. That's Jesus' teachings. Stay with the red letters. I like Matthew 7. It's awesome. Now, for when the Jews ask of their Jehovah, what do they get? Jesus will tell us. They get snakes and stones. That is the opposite of our. They get more than that. Snakes and stones just a beginning. By the time I'm done with this video series, you're going to understand that if you want to. A lot of people don't want to. I understand that too. So if you look at the entirety, and I've read way more about Jesus' teachings in India and further than that, outside of the Bible. Once you understand his name is Issa, I-S-S-A, you can start finding all of his teachings. You just got to know how the translation of the languages. But to break it down, what I've learned so far, today, again, December 7, 2024, Jesus' message is two things. The people of his timeline do not know the Father of Heaven, and they do not understand how to stop the act and react cycle most of the world calls karma. To be as Jesus is to be of unconditional love, to help and to serve others. There's no bigotry, there's no judgment, there's no rebuking. He only ever rebuked the religious authorities. Jesus is all about 100% unconditional love and service. That's it. Nothing else. And don't stop the act and react. Don't do that. Give more than you're given. That's the bottom line. That's his message. Everything in the Old Testament or New Testament that does not love this message and support and serve others, all right, that's all a writing on Jehovah, evil, dark lord, or the bigotry that comes into the New Testament. I've already talked about that. It's all about the laws of Jehovah and Yahweh. That is in 100% the entirety of the Old Testament. Now, once you have the Holy Spirit in you, your eyes, the scales that's been put on all of us, on all of our eyes and ears, those scales will melt. They'll fall away. When you're not using the Bible and the message as a crutch or a foundation to stand on, and you're seeking truth. Truth is there. It will hit you like an arrow right in the middle and open up your third eye. Middle of your forehead is what I meant to say, and open up your third eye. Truth does that. truth is that profound. Now, so let's look at how did the evil take over on humans? When did that begin? What happened? Where's the timeline? Where does it start? And you have to go all the way back in the Bible. It is recorded as Midian. So Midian is in the northwest Arabian Peninsula on the Gulf of Aqaba on the Red Sea, of which is a location that has remains and remnants and ruins of at least 14 different areas that were inhabited during the late Bronze Age and the early Iron Age. Here is where we find Moses in front of the burning bush. He hears a voice, he sees the fire, and the bush is not being consumed by the fire. The voice claims to be the father of his ancestors. But when Moses asks for a name, the voice says, I am that I am. Now, wait right there, because you got to go in and look at the translation. What does that mean? I am that I am. All right, in the Septuagint, if you want to read this correctly, I read it to you from the Bible. Now let's read it from the Septuagint. For Greek is always, you always want to look up the most accurate language, and it is Greek. All right, the Septuagint records it this way. It's in Exodus 3:14. And here's how it states it. And God spoke to God, the number 430, Elohim. And God spoke to Moses, saying, I am the being. And he said, Thus shall ye say to the children of Israel, the being has sent me to you. The being, B-E-I-N-G. So that whole I am, that is not our creator, that is not Father in heaven. This being, we will later see, will describe himself in many areas and throughout the Old Testament. It's a fire-breathing, human-hating dragon. And it is Behemoth. It is Leviathan. That is the God that Moses is speaking to. That's the bottom line. If you want to take the time, you'll see it for yourself. That is the true translation of what you must be clear, right? If you're going to be a student of the Holy Scriptures and you want to do it without indoctrination, and that will start, or I should say this timeline that I just read, Exodus 3:14, that's going to start this endless serial killing God. The blood sacrifices, the burning of babies, it's all about killing humans and animals of our Father's creations, keeping in mind the dragons and his sky army, Elohim, fallen dark angels, hate humans, hate God's creation. Throughout the OT, it's all hate, war, and bloodshed. Evil E.T., Elohim, Jehovah. So for the last 6 months, I have, alongside my Bible studies, I have done a very intense study on ancient indigenous cultures all over the planet. Everything that could come to mind, everything the Holy Spirit told me, every book, every direction the Holy Spirit sent me towards, I have downloaded, I don't know, 40, 50 books at this point on the indigenous cultures all over the planet, to hear their stories, to see what the collective consciousness and the collective memory and the collective psyche and the outcome of all being the same. They're not creative. They didn't think outside the box. It's all the same. It never changes. So what did I find out? The first thing, because I study hermeneutically, I study the words, how they've changed, the spelling of the words, the pronunciation of the words. They change over time. The language begins to soften. That word is called affrication or fricatives. And once you know, now you know those words, you can go study it for yourself. So Once you study that, then you understand all of them tell of a time in which the powerful ones, not human, are governed over, and they had armored like skins. They had tails. Some of them had feathers. Most of them had a fire breath type of what they consider to be a weapon, aka dragons, also known as seraphim, as in Isaiah, fiery flying serpents. They were called, again, look at the pronunciations, they're all the same. Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan. Those were two in ancient Mesoamerica. Coco over Portugal, Ikiucha over Japan, Kokias over Georgia, which is on the Black Sea in Southwest Asia, the Draig Kok over the people of Wales, and of course Egypt has Akhenaten. Again, take notice of all of the K's. Over time, those K's get changed to a CH. That's the fricative, and that is the changing of the names. Now, you can read all about this, what I just talked about, these dragons, read it in Joshua 24. A lot of what I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to point you, I'm going to give you a reference, so you can pause and go read for yourself and see if you can undo the indoctrination. Because it's thousands of years in our collective psyche. It's been beaten into us. The truth has been taken out of our DNA. I mean, as a collective, we are highly traumatized by satanic ritual abuse. Period. It's running through our collective consciousness. Understand that as you read Joshua 24. He did. He understood it. Or, if you don't see it that way, go to Revelation 13. Now, Revelation 13 is going to give you the same information that I can see is in Hosea 13 as well. I'm going to read Hosea 13, 5-8. I did know thee in the wilderness, in the land of great drought. According to their pasture, so were they filled. They were filled, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they have forgotten me. Therefore I will be unto them as a lion, as a leopard by the way will I observe them. I will meet them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelps, and will rend the coal of their heart, and there will I devour them like a lion. The wild beast shall tear them. This is the God that everyone is following. That's not our loving creator. So let's go ahead and pause that right there before I get into a little bit deeper into this. But to wrap up Hosea 13, read all of it for yourself. Understand the punishment and reward. If you understand the theme, when you read this, understanding that the theme of Jehovah is, I will reward you if you follow my laws and bow down and worship my statues. And if not, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to eat you like a wild beast. It's a reward punishment. It's a fear-based tactic. It is a military tactic. Now, once you read Hosea 13, you're basically understanding the psychopathic, bloodthirsty God, Elohim, which you can also read in Numbers 21. So see how the theme, it doesn't change. It's a fight amongst the many gods. All right, so you've got different dragons coming down to rule and reign terror over different peoples of different lands. That's all that is. We heard your God is better over there. We're going to worship him. That kind of indoctrination. It's a series of different dragons that give themselves to the people of the timeline. They're all Elohim. It's all recorded as Elohim. But they are different personalities with different tactics. Now, go read in Amos 5. Read Amos 5, now that you understand. Or I'm going to read 2 Kings 18 for sure. But I'm going to read 2 Kings 18 verse 4. He removed the high places and break the images and cut down the groves and break in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it. He called it Nehushtan. All right, so what are we saying here? Nehushtan in the lexicon is number 5180. It means serpent of brass. Brazen also is another word for brass. Now, if you want to take a deeper dive and understand this dragon called Jehovah, read David's, because David's completely fooled by Jehovah. Read David's words, right? It's a long psalm, but read it with understanding the reward punishment system, the fear-based tactic. Worship me, follow me, or I will eat you alive. Okay, read David in Psalm 18. Now that is further recorded, pretty much the same, 2 Samuel 22. Right? What did we see here? It is a fire-breathing dragon with thick clouds of black smoke and darkness under his feet, who rewards David for following him and keeping his statutes. That is not the Father of Jesus. It is not who is within us, the kingdom within. So here you can really see the priest class today, we call elite. They are worshiping the same as David. They are worshiping the God of David. I hope you hear that. I hope you read Psalm 18 and understand what's going on. Jehovah even describes himself as a behemoth and as Leviathan. Read that in Job 40 and 41. It's all right there. Do they have offspring? Does the Leviathan and Behemoth, Jehovah, have offspring? Absolutely. They mingled with our seeds. That's why lizards and snake people can now walk. The reptile kingdom can stand upright and walk. One day you're going to be face to face with one of these reptilians. And you talk about the fear of Jehovah taking you over, men's heart will fail them. There's reptilians out there because they have human DNA, giving them human ability, walking on 2 legs, 2 arms and a head, eyes, nose, mouth for eating, digestive system. They require human consumption and human blood. That's what they live on. And they've been around as long as the dragons have been around. In other words, Elohim was here maybe billions, if not trillions of years before humans were ever made. So when the sky armies come back, that's what we can expect. If you want to further understand this with this kind of lens now, if a layer of indoctrination has been taken off of you, go read Isaiah 42. Isaiah 42. I'll end this with verse 25. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on a fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him. Yet he laid it not to heart. The ongoing theme in all of this is, look, I'm going to protect you, your dark overlord, but, however, I'm going to punish you, all right? If you are seeing it yet, it is how we have always, the monarchies especially, they worship these dark overlords, and it is always how they colonize and control the people. You starve them, then you provide food, like the 40 years in the desert. Look, if you go along with their plan and comply, as everyone did all over planet Earth for 2 years with the mask that began in 2020, it was the dragons checking on our continued compliance before their successful return back to the people, claiming to be God, and the religious indoctrinated world will once again fall down and worship them even more. And then what happens throughout the Bible? Nothing new under the sun. The wars will begin. And now you're getting a better understanding of the entire book of Revelation. Potter out.